Hey, brothers and sisters. So, Brother Matt from Australia sent me this amazing article. This is probably one of the best articles I have ever read regarding the scenarios that we're now up against. And it's from rev310.net. I will include the link so you guys can read the entire article. It says it's about 13-minute read, but it's one of those articles that you want to go over and read over and over. I don't have time to make a whole video on this article as it's just too much to ponder, but the name of the article is The Days of Reckoning, and it's by Pete Garcia. He has a lot of other articles on this website, but again, part of the Rapture Ready Remnant, and I really, really encourage you to visit his site. But I wanted to lay out these scenarios that he gives because it's really what so many of us watchmen are talking about regarding America and when the rapture will happen. So he says further down in the article, quote, "Given what Scripture says about the last days geopolitical construct," and it says a lot, and the fact that we aren't mentioned, meaning America, means there are really only two scenarios for our nation. The first is quick and sudden, and the second is painfully drawn out over time and then sudden. For the sake of the argument, he says, I'll include a third, fourth, and fifth scenario, but these are highly unlikely as standalone pre-tribulation events. Okay, so option A, he lists as divine crisis. In this scenario, things continue on in our increasingly deteriorating world, as they always have until the Lord suddenly and without warning removes his bride, the church, from the earth at the rapture. While all true born-again Christians are removed from around the world at this point, the 30 million Christians, an estimated 10%, removed from the United States, sets in motion a series of cascading global calamities. First, it collapses the world's only true superpower nation, the United States of America. This then collapses the world's reserve currency, the US dollar. This then upends the global economy. This then creates a power vacuum within the geopolitical power structure that other nations, say Russia, Iran, and China, quickly seek to fill. This event may or may not coincide with the natural calamity such as the eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano or a massive geological event such as the Juan Dan Fuca subduction zone. Okay? So option B, he lists as consequential tragedy. In this scenario, after suffering numerous blows to the economy, the Constitution, and the morale of the American people, our nation finally begins to fracture in response to either the tyrannical federal overreach or our skyrocketing inflation. A popular uprising, the People's Revolt, rises up across numerous cities and states, prompting some federal response in the form of martial law. There could also be some kind of fracturing between the states and the federal government, fomenting talks and acts of secession, which also triggers a draconian reaction from the government, at which point the military and law enforcement agencies across the nation become divided, causing mass desertion and lawful insurrections against unlawful commands. Both the saved and the unsaved are impacted at this point, and while deprivation becomes the norm, persecution against Christians will be territorial, largely depending on the predominant population groups of a particular area. Persecution against Christians will depend on where in the U.S. you live. The U.S. begins to implode from within and causes global markets to lose confidence in the USD, which prompts the immediate abandonment of its global reserve status. This upends the global economic and geopolitical order, and ultimately, our dissolution as a constitutional republic triggers a power vacuum, causing competitive powers to fill. At this point, adding insult to injury, God then issues the order of the rapture. Okay, so he goes on and he gives a scenario, an option C, which is a mixture, option D, and option E. Okay, so I highly encourage you to read this article. There's just so much to this that I could never do it justice in one video. But what I really like, what he has to say is how the idea of living in the days of Noah and Lot point to a time period that we are living in right now, like seriously right now. And he really gives some awesome answers for why that could be. And he kind of reasons back and forth on some things. But again, like for instance, he says here, quote, in this passage, option A is the most obvious choice, primarily because it strongly suggests a sense of normalcy existing in the world prior to the Lord's return at the rapture. Clearly, the world will be anything but normal at the time of the second coming. So this must be the pre-tribulation rapture time frame. Note that Jesus isn't focusing his message on the wickedness of the world, although we know it's very wicked, and he wasn't focusing on the supernatural conditions. Rather, he focused on the normal occurrences that have been in every generation: buying and selling, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, and so forth. These are signs of normalcy, not of depression or not of desperation or calamity. Here's another passage that correlates with this time frame of normalcy. And then he goes to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and also brings up Revelation 3:10. So again, I will include the link to this article for you guys to read. Again, this is one of the best articles I have ever read, and it's rev3.net. God bless.